UKLC is presented by Curry's PC World.
Hello everyone and welcome to the UKLC presented by Curry's PC World. I am Viper and joined by Jamada once again for our second super weekend in a row. And Jamada, I watched the games on Monday. They were pretty hype. How have you been doing this week?
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. It feels almost kind of like a little while ago. I've had to keep up with the NLC in the midweek as well. But yeah, no, Monday's games were pretty damn good. We had a pretty explosive weekend as well, the Saturday and the Sunday. But Monday, I think, just about matched those same kind of energy levels too.
Yeah, I was sitting on my sofa watching it and, well, not a sofa, armchair, and watching it. And there were some really, really exciting matchups. And we've got some of the highlights here, but each and every game seems to just be delivering on Monday.
Yeah, every game, honestly, kind of was. Opening game of the day, Barrage, Bulldog, and I mean, honestly, look at this engage from KDO. It was so damn good. Multiple just wombo combos actually throughout the game. Just Bulldog weren't really able to respect a lot of the choke points in those fighting areas, so they kind of just got washed. And I mean, here, Enclave, they never really stood much of a chance once Resolve kind of just kept on going. You see here, really nice narf into the wall by Artorias. And I mean, Resolve, honestly, they're looking like they could actually fulfill the 14-0 promise. We'll have to see, though. They still have, I want to say, a couple of tough games. Obviously, later on today, they have London, which is probably going to be the toughest remaining game in the regular split. And I mean, this was probably the biggest upset of the evening. Demise take their second win of the split over MNM, who honestly, played like MNM, but Demise were actually able to answer out in quite a few of the fights.
And that one was a very, very interesting watch because it is, as you said, it was MNM playing their fighting style. It wasn't like they were being forced to play the style of play that Demise wanted, but they never really got going to the same extent. And just watching this, no man fresh. I left and they forgot to ban it.
Yeah, I don't know. Guys, Resolve, if you're on blue side, if you're listening right now, just pay the man his respects. Even though I'm sure you're confident that you'll win. Just pay him the respects. Yuna does what no other jungler seems to ever be able to do and won a smite versus PFI in that clip, which was, honestly, I recognized after the fact. Obviously, long-term viewers will know PFI is a bit of a smite king in UKLC. But yeah, it didn't save that game either. London took down Envision, regardless of that Baron still.
And that's, as you mentioned, as you alluded to just a couple of moments ago, London will be taking on Resolve in our second match of the day, which is definitely a very, very exciting one. Resolve being this completely unstoppable train of League of Legends. We're actually going to be able to bring up the standings for you just to show how unstoppable they've been so far this split. 9-0, which is pretty mad considering the next top team has only got 6 wins. Yeah,
Resolve yet to drop a game. I think London is going to be their next big hurdle, but even then, I'm not sure whether it's actually just to potentially even call it a big hurdle. We'll have to see. It really depends on what kind of London come out tonight, how hard they're going to be swinging.
It's going to be very, very interesting. And even below those top 2 and looking at the rest of the league, things are super close across the board. MNM's still holding on to that 3rd position, but Barrage and Bulldog are kind of jostling for that 4th spot, that last playoff spot with Enclave and Envision, not only fighting to try and dethrone them and try and sneak their way into the top half, but also trying to claw their way away from that bottom 2. And I mean, Demise only 1 win below the rest of the teams, so could definitely look to make some gains as we move into this Super Week. And again, 3 days of games to look forward to. But let's look forward to the games that we've got today coming up for you on the screen. We've got 4 amazing matches, starting with MNM Bulldog. Resolve London is that big game, second one of the night. Envision Barrage in a very, very important one around that middle of the table. And Demise Enclave will round us out. 2 teams that need to start picking up wins if they want to avoid relegation.
Yeah, and basically all of these games have either major or, sort of longer standing implications in the standings, right? So, Demise, if they win here tonight versus Enclave in the final game of the day, they are going to tie up with Enclave in the standings. And it is going to effectively kind of, if I'm going down, you're going with me kind of scenario going on there. Whereas, you look towards the beginning of the day, our MNM versus Bulldog match, MNM effectively sort of fighting Bulldog here to remain as that top 3 contender. trying to catch up with London. Assuming London lose today, then of course MNM, I believe, will end up tying them in the standings. So, that head-to-head, I believe MNM London should be this weekend. It's either going to be tomorrow or Monday. It's going to have even more meaning to the standings as well. And Vision Barrage, I'm pretty sure they're tied right now, so fighting to effectively just untie themselves.
It's going to be very, very interesting across the board. A lot of very close, contentious games. And we were talking before we came live, and also we gave our predictions. And there were a couple of places where we weren't agreed. I think we both agreed on MNM coming out the first game with a win. The Resolve game, we disagreed. In that someone has to stop Resolve going undefeated.
I can understand that, but if out of all the teams left, it can only really be London. I feel like as a realistic challenge to Resolve. I think beyond that, most of the other teams likely kind of just get pushed aside, either quite quickly or, sort of in a respectful way by Resolve. So yeah, I do agree. London, if there's a team left in the regular split that can do it, is them. But if they fall and they fall quickly, then I don't expect Resolve to actually drop a game for the remainder of the split.
Yeah, this is kind of last chance saloon. Of course, there can be big upsets. We saw one on Monday with Demise taking down MNM, so it still could be one of these teams that are doing a little bit worse coming through. But I think London looked so good last week. It was very, very difficult for me to sit there and go, I can see them losing, because they were in unstoppable form. They came into Super Week being they were consistently inconsistent, is how we described them.
Yeah, they were consistent in one way. Yeah.
And now they came in, clean sweep. Clearly, they just need that extra game day in order to flourish and thrive. And coming into a new one against Resolve, you've got to imagine that they're going to be the closest team to competing with them, especially if stuff like the Fresh isn't banned away. Yeah,
I think honestly for London, it is going to be about actually playing their game. In the sense of they love to put resources into Denvoxney, right? Denvoxney's been the star man. We've played out this storyline a million times. So I think we actually have to look at the root of why this typically happens, and that's going to be PFI and Beely. I think for them, and of course we'll talk more at length once we do get to that game, but for London to succeed, I feel like they have to have a strong mid jungle in this matchup, to at least sort of keep Soft and Chimera at bay so that they can constantly move down into this bottom side to give those resources to Denvoxney. Otherwise, we could just see them struggle out of the gate, because honestly, Soft and Chimera as a duo have, whilst Chimera might not always be at the forefront of Resolve success, he has typically been setting up Soft, who has been the main man of the Resolve roster for that success. So I think mid jungle is going to be a pretty big talking point, but of course, the bottom side of the map for both these teams, really important.
Absolutely. We're going to have to see how they do in our second game of the day, but just as importantly, for different reasons, our final game of the day, Demise versus Enclave. And this is another one we disagreed on. You actually back Demise to even up the scoreline with Enclave in this one. And what's the logic behind that one?
I mean, whilst I was impressed with the one Enclave win that they did manage to secure last weekend, I'm just not sure that they're going to be able to find that consistent sort of pace. Maybe they will prove me wrong, but I feel like if they kind of just play this, what feels like sleepy League of Legends, where they kind of sit there and they don't necessarily be proactive on the map in the early stages in particular, then I feel like Demise, the way that they've been drafting, albeit, yes, still some minor kind of hiccups, but they're on the right tracks again, which is important for them. Demise, I can very easily see them taking a win over Enclave. I don't think it's a really big ask, especially coming off the back of the MNM win. Morale is going to be high in the camp. And I think I can't remember who we interviewed on Monday, but I do recall them basically saying, it was kind of the most fun that we'd had in a stage game. They felt like there was no pressure on them anymore. And if they go into this match, specifically against Enclave, really, where it's like there's no pressure on their shoulders, they feel like they can just play League of Legends, they can kind of turn it into a scrim atmosphere where, you can kind of have fun, but you're there to win. Yeah. I can very easily see Demise almost walking over Enclave, in all honesty.
That'll be very interesting, but it's going to be super interesting when we jump into our first game of the day. MNM, on the back of that loss to Demise, will need to pick up some form if they want to bounce back against Bulldog, who a little bit of a resurgence last week. They looked very, very bad before that, and then very, very good before that. They've been an interesting case as Bulldog, but definitely a team that we want to see how they can match up against MNM, who are a little bit stung coming out of this one. So we're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, it will be Champ Select for that first match of the day. You don't want to miss it, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
education, other kinds of wealth. We found this animation, luck was a conversation, pictures on a shelf. People say we are just what we do. It's just a stage. So we go on, and the lights are so strong. Just have to make this sound. We've broken ground, it's a countdown. We go on. Go on. Oh, oh. Life is an invitation, a soapbox, imagination. Use it while you can. A handheld illumination, LCD appellation. Show up is the plan. Oh, they say we are just what we do, and it's all a stage. So we go on, and the lights are so strong. Just have to make this sound. We've broken ground, it's a countdown. We go on.
Hello and welcome back to the UKLC. I'm Viperoon, still joined by Jamada because it was only a 4-minute break. We weren't gone for too long. And we're going to be jumping into our first game very, very soon. MNM taking on Bulldog. And even though we both predicted MNM to win this game, I think this one could go the distance.
It could certainly go the distance. You know, I think the last time that we saw these two teams meet, in the earlier stages, MNM's aggression started to edge out, but because of the composition that Bulldog specifically had in that game, Caspar, at the time, now VUC, had the vein in his hands, and he hit that 2-iron mark. And once Bulldog were actually able to, you know, sort of death wall around him, keep him alive in these fights, MNM couldn't really stand a chance because of the kind of nature of League of Legends that they play. If they weren't able to pick Caspar up in those fights, they weren't actually winning the fights, and then they slowly kind of rolled over from there. So, you know, for MNM, this is technically a pretty important game because not only are they attempting to, you know, keep their second place hopes up in the regular split, they also don't have head-to-head over Bulldog right now. They need to even that one out because, you know, if, let's say, they do go on to, you know, beat Bulldog here, but then in some sort of chain of events, they end up evening out in the standings come the end of the regular split, Bulldog would then end up taking their spot because they'll have that 2-0 over them. So MNM, you know, pressure is on them to, you know, certainly win. As I'm sure they're going to be pretty sore about last week's Super Week as well, only coming up 1 and 2.
Yeah, definitely an interesting matchup, and Bulldog, it's kind of strange for me to think that they're a playoff contesting team coming into off the back of last week, what was a really rough run of form, and then last week they did look much improved. But I see champs like Camille, Aatrox, Udyr, and Hecarim. Both of these teams clearly have an agenda when it comes to bans, top laners versus junglers.
Yeah, and you know, I think MNM paying their respects to Hachi in particular, removing the Aatrox away. I don't think Hachi's actually run the Camille yet though. So though he might have, but I'll have to double check that one. But one thing to definitely note, we've got Olaf, Pantheon, Taliyah all up. Pantheon now is going to be removed away from Bulldog by MNM, so we'll have to see now what the final ban is. It's going to be fresh, so you've got that Olaf up and available if you want to first pick it. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case. We are still on 11.2, so the full round of Olaf nerfs plus the Gordrinker nerfs haven't quite hit yet. So he is still very much a very powerful champion, and MNM, they're just going to snap that one up.
Yeah, very simply going to be picking that one up with such a contested jungle pool, and with all these top lanes and junglers being taken off the table, Seraphine has found her way through, could well be picked up by Bulldog if Shiklin or Poke want to go, or Vyusi, but I don't think that's a really Vyusi style champ.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a Vyusi champ. So I would expect this one to be in Shiklin or Poke's hands. We'll have to see what they also round out with, because there's no Hecarim, and of course MNM have that Olaf, so normally when you see the likes of that Seraphine, you tend to see a bit of a death ball comp around it, where you kind of just want to group up and stay with the Seraphine, protect her, she gives you all the utility, and you just kind of roll through some of these mid-game fights. So things like the Renekton rise up in priority as well, but for now, they're just going to snag up their priority carry, and that's going to be the Kai'Sa for Vyusi.
Yeah, very, very strong pickup. Want to be giving all the power to this bot lane, and you said that last time MNM and Bulldog met, it was Vyusi who was kind of the driving force of the success for Bulldog in that game, and that was something that we saw very heavily when Bulldog were on this early run of amazing form. Obviously, there were other players who were doing exceptionally well. Hachi is the one that springs to mind instantly, but a lot of the success that came from that bot lane, and now we're going to see if he can do the same again. It's going to be Xayah for MNM to contest that pick in the bot side.
Yeah, and I'm curious about what support pick MNM would likely pick up here, or just their third pick. I mean, you could just go down the support route, which, okay, they're just going to beat me to it with the Alistar, but I was going to say Galio also holds some kind of value here too. You know, it can flex into that bottom side role. I think we've seen Regan play it, though he didn't have the best game on it. And of course, you know, Olaf with that Galio as the backup sort of support can definitely help out, but with the Alistar being picked up, it's actually left Rel available, which is kind of surprising, especially in recency. Rel's been pretty damn strong, to say the least. And if you've been watching any LEC, you certainly know how much priority teams are currently putting on this champion. So it's going to actually go over to Bulldog. So we'll have to see what kind of champions they compare. If that does kind of spell that Seraphine is going to be in the mid lane. So MNM do have at least probably the mid lane counter pick going for them. Opportunity here now for MNM to pinch away the junglers, and then Bulldog, they're going to probably just remove away. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bulldog also remove away something like the Irelia on top of that Fizz.
Yeah, MNM could just easily finish the job that Bulldog started, get rid of someone like the Taliyah in that jungle role, maybe the Nidalees, or instead of, you obviously can't ban both, only one left remaining, and they're going to have to puzzle out which direction they want to go with that last ban. But it will force Zayn to be on something maybe a little bit preferential.
I would actually maybe expect the Graves ban, because right now Bulldog are kind of looking for a little more physical damage. It would be pretty tough for them to go another AP jungler here. The Lilia ban, I think, for Zion is maybe comfort, but yeah, they do actually want to just remove away to Lilia. So I think now we probably just end up seeing Bulldog lock in the Graves, just to sort of mix out their damage profile a little bit more, unless they have some kind of engaged tank in mind, which also could be an option here. But it's gonna be rough running a tank, specifically one that wants to go into Olaf. So we'll have to see. I think Graves just the best option.
and that one will be picked up. So now we're going to have to see how MNM Academy decide to round out their composition. Nothing too flexible they've shown. They just have gone for those strong pickups in the jungle and bot lane, meaning that we're going to see the mid and top. And now a very, very strong pickup that we saw have success last week.
Yeah, and it's honestly not a champion that we've really seen DBL on, and also another champion that's certainly been rising to priority in recency as well, the Azir coming back into the meta. So exciting to see how that one's going to sort of match up specifically into the Seraphine. I don't think I've seen the lane matchup before, as we're just going to get Hachi on the Wukong. Okay, so two very interesting compositions. I think MNM sort of leaning more into standard to what we expect in this meta.
They are very, very interesting compositions, as you said. And there's so much power in the individual champions that have been picked up. You could say that because of the focus of the bans down onto top lane and onto jungle, which is something that is very, very interesting to consider. And it's something that I want to talk to you a little bit about from Bulldog's side, just before we jump into this one. So Bulldog, the last couple of games, they brought in Zion in the jungle. They gave so much priority over to him with the picks of the jungle. This time around, not only do they not give any priority to the pick, leaving it till R4, but also themselves banning out jungle champs and allowing jungle champs to be banned against them. Is there much less pressure on them this game because they haven't been given that first pick?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I feel like, you know, blue side drafting is a little bit different to red side, because I believe Bulldog in all three of the games had blue side. Don't quote me on that. They definitely had blue side.
They had blue side in two of them for sure.
At least 2 games. So when you're drafting from blue side, typically the standard is, you know, jungle or AD carry picks kind of first. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, that's how a lot of teams are drafting on blue side. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily, you know, a big tendency for Bulldog specifically. I think here it was just, okay, we want these champions, because they did pick up very strong champions, right? It was Seraphine, Kai'Sa, and Rel in the opening act. So I don't think it's like, okay, we had a full week of not putting priority onto him, we're not going to do it now. I think it was just the priority of champions in the meta that they just decided to pick up first, because they just felt like they were more powerful champions for them.
And I mean, they were very, very powerful pickups. As you said, Seraphine, exceptionally strong, flexible pick. Showing the Rel in the second rotation kind of removes that just a little bit. But you've also got the Kai'Sa, who is one of, if not the strongest marksman at the moment. And the Rel as well. You said yourself, surprised to see it go through so long and for the Alistar to be preferred over it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Regan specifically, the Alistar's kind of like a comfort / you know, this is a pick that I know Regan has played for a very long time, much like his Thresh as well. Which I believe was also banned away. So
it was banned, yeah.
It's more like, okay, we just prefer the Alistar over the Rel, which, you know, you can have your disagreements about. I personally think Rel is, you know, objectively at the moment the stronger champion. But here we are. We're on to Summoner's Rift, game 1.
Onto the Rift, MNM Academy on the blue side, taking on Bulldog on the red. Again, lines of scrimmage. Hachi doing his best to try and just do something interesting in the top side. Not going to be able to find anyone, as DBL has not shown up. But quick prediction before we get into the game proper. Which of these drafts do you prefer?
Ooh, I mean, I think MNM have a more standard draft to what we expect at the moment, like I've already said. Bulldogs is interesting, but I think they may end up struggling at key sort of item spike points. The only thing that I can sort of counter argue this with is that Shiklin, if he is going down the more supportive route, which honestly he may end up doing because he's got so much damage on his team already, Bulldog can fight around things like the Moonstone spike, the stuff of Flowing Water spike as well. Whereas Tyrex, you know, his items are going to be more expensive. So that's kind of about it. Other than that, I think it's probably a little more MNM favored. They're working with a little more. It's hard for Bulldog to come into them with the likes of that Azir wall there, the Featherstorm as well. So I think the emphasis is on Bulldog to actually try and make something happen in the earlier stages, but they don't necessarily have the composition to do it. So it's going to be pretty difficult, I feel.
Honestly, I'm just pleasantly surprised that both of these teams drafted Engage.
I mean, MNM don't have like the most engage. Can we get a toggle on DBL's next P as well? As he's getting really...
He's getting beaten up. He's going to be forced back away from Hachi. And I mean,
yeah.
Alistar? Nah? Are those not engaged champs?
So more like they function typically as like secondary engage sometimes. I mean, Alistar, that, you know, you can do both. But there's no hey, I can just full frontal engage at little to no cost, right? You know, Regan's going to have to find the flank. He's going to have to commit a flash. It's kind of the same for DBL, right? It's going to have to be mispositioning from Bulldog. So it's not like you've got someone like a Sejuani or, you know, just champions that don't necessarily need extra tools to engage or circumstances to engage. They can just press their go buttons.
Yeah, true, but I don't know. It's enough engage for me, and that's what matters. That's what matters on this desk. If it's good enough for Viper, and it's good enough for the UKLC, at least while I'm here.
Yes.
Hitbrain might have higher standards of engage than I do, but you know, Alistair, Gnar, Rel, Wukong, Seraphina, it's all good. The team fight is going to be exceptionally exciting. There's so many powerful abilities, and normally what we'll see quite often is massive abilities on ultimates that are going to be blown very early in fights. But here there's a lot going on across the board, and DBL needs to be very, very careful, stepping up again and taking a beating. But Haji now actually going to be chased away, and DBL's preferring that trade. Not going to be able to go forward for the kill, and Graves moving up will dissuade any further action.
Yeah, so this is actually a dangerous position for DBL to kind of be in. The way he's pushing in, he was chunked out, and Graves is also on that side of the map. But Hachi takes the trade inside of the minion wave. So he ends up losing out in the extended trade. Once he comes in, he then has to walk away from the mini-Gnar, so he is being outranged there. Very fortunate to have not actually had to have blown a flash or anything like that. DBL is going to have to TP back up into the lane, though, to make sure that it doesn't get entirely frozen on, but this wave is so big, I don't think Hachi could hold it anyway. Zion still is in the area. We'll have to see if DBL does pay his respects.
Yeah, he's pushed up very, very far. Did get that cull on the first back, so actually not the worst thing in the world for a Gnar. You can see boots picked up by Hachi. Not going to be doing too much of that combat prowess, but it looks like neither jungler is particularly interested in the top lane right now, both either clearing out or going B. So maybe not going to see some action up there just yet.
Yeah, and one thing I want to know is how far ahead in tempo Olaf currently is over the Graves. You can see right now Graves coming back out of base. He hasn't actually cleared any of his respawn camps, whereas Kazura is about to finish up his wolves. So he is quite far ahead, and if we could get a look at the bottom wave of MNM as... Oh, wait, never mind.
Oh, Hachi getting beaten up once again, trying to step up. This time the flash had to be burned, so really not having a great time in this matchup.
Yeah, and he had the counter pick too, so we'll have to see what Hachi's actually able to achieve here. But you can see, Bulldog, they're shoving in right now. It does kind of set up for them to potentially get ganked, or at the very least, MNM are going to bounce this wave back out. As actually, never mind, there you see. Looking forward. Not going to be able to find anything, but Olaf obviously loves the early dragons. Zion's actually here to attempt to crash the wave, I believe. Or now, because Kazura's kind of posturing, he's going to sit here for the counter gank.
Could be looking for something. It will be a 3v3. Kazura walking over a lot of vision in that time, so going to be spotted out by Bulldog, who not going to commit anything further, but Zion thinking about the dragon for a second before moving up towards this mid side. So again, both junglers being active on the map, but not pulling the trigger just yet.
Yeah, but the key thing is for Zion is that his jungle camps that are respawning right now are on the top side. So he is eventually going to have to be dragged up there to farm it. As you can see, Kazura coming down here to force bottom side priority. I think the focus here for MNM is trying to starve this dragon or have the space to, but they don't have mid lane prior at the moment. So you can already see Shiklin has moved down. He's got that level 6 available as well. So just trying to gate this this wave under. Whether they're going to start the dragon though, I feel like it would be a little bit audacious now. As you can see, Harry's taking that reset. So just going to bide their time as Hachi, buddy.
He's trying it again, but doesn't have ultimate. Nargo's Vega, but a decent dodge. And in the mid lane, Direct needs to be careful. Kazura and Regan in the wings to make sure that nothing else comes of that. But pretty unfortunate ultimate there coming through from DBL. He will have it available every time he becomes Mega, so it's not the biggest loss, but losing out on the potential for a kill.
Yeah, so DBL not just remembering that Wukong has a clone ability. The end result there as Poke could be in for some hurt here.
He's going to flash away, so not going to be taking too much, but that's the problem with Rel. If you use that engage or you use that attempted escape, you're going to be very, very slow trying to get away from anything else. And with the undertow coming through from Olaf, it's going to be very, very rough escaping for any of these early skirmishes down bot.
Yeah, and Zion doing the correct thing here, recognizing he's probably not going to be able to get his hands on this first dragon. So he's already in MNM's jungle trying to catch up in terms of that gold or make up for the fact that they're going to give over that dragon, though. DBL is actually checking the camp.
We'll find Zion there, and Tyrek's nice slide from Zion gets him out of dodge for free. The dragon does go down, but Crucially, Graves gets away with his life and the blue buff.
Yeah, gets away with his life. Isn't going to be able to take up that wolf camp. We'll have to see how much Kazura can actually take away in Zion's jungle now. As he's got Regan coming up in support. I think MNM have the information on what jungle camps they did lose. So Kazura is actually going to leave the ground. Okay. So what we could be seeing here is just a tempo reset. We'll have to see where they actually open out onto the map, whether they're going to try and play for Herald. But it's certainly very strange that they didn't actually have Kazura commit for all of the jungle camps on that side, unless the plan is to play for that Herald, which, given DBL's reset, the fact that MNM and Regan and Harry are walking up to the top side, seems like that is going to be the idea. So you'll see Kazura just full clear up to the top side.
Moving your bot lane up there allows you a little bit more vision, a little bit more priority in the top lane, and it doesn't look like Bulldog on the same page with that one. Kai'Sa already moving down bot, Vyusi pretty much already there. Rel looking to get onto the map a little bit more on the back of her pony, but not going to be giving the same power as Harry will be in terms of pushing the wave out. Hachi, though, has ultimate, is 2 levels higher than this Xayah, who's all alone for the second. Regan has now wandered back into vision. Hachi diving away from that stun. But things looking a little bit better as Shiklin going to be forced to move away from Tyrex. We haven't said very much about this mid lane because not that much has happened.
Yeah, but Shiklin's actually accrued himself a 10 CS leaders. Oh, Rel looking for an engage here.
Something actually with the ultimate, they're going to be able to get the stun up, the knock up, and the damage. Regan looking to disengage, but does get stunned. Zion here now as well. The feathers on the back to keep your eyes on those. Collateral damage secures the first blood, as Zion will send them packing. Hachi should get away just for now, but Kazero is moving up, maybe looking towards a dive, but Shiklin hanging around in the wings would make this one very, very difficult. It looks like MNM Academy don't want to play this game, as they're going to be forced to back away.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of illegal that MNM are the ones getting caught out here on the top side, considering they were the first team to actually move up here. There should have been a safe side for MNM to rely on. And it's just a good pick from Bulldog, in all honesty, just recognizing because they see Kazuro mid, so they know that they're at least going to have numbers advantage. In that sense, they should be tracking DBL's teleport as well, so 3v2, they take the immediate engage, find themselves that first blood. But it's still going to be MNM Academy who pick up the Herald on the backside. So a little bit standing gold there, but Bulldog actually pulled ahead. A lot of CS leads kind of across the board. I don't think any plates have been picked up, so it's just mostly CS making up half of that gold lead. It's only 1,000, and MNM do have the standing at least 300 from that Herald, but still something to kind of keep in mind as bottom laners have returned to the bottom side. Vyusi, during all of those shenanigans, stayed bot, so he's temporarily going to have a level advantage over Harry.
And that's going to be very, very nice for the Kai'Sa to have in pocket, especially considering the play was very positive for Bulldog.
Yeah.
Not needing their marksman even remotely near to it, allowing them to get that farm, get that XP lead is going to be great. You can see Olaf sneaking onto your screens now because Zero will be spotted out on a ward if he steps too much further forward, and maybe is aware of that, so trying to stay in shadow as much as possible. Poke and Vyusi hanging around. Seraphine is moving down, so Shiklin will be part of the fight if it does kick off. Zion in the bush as well, so again, it's a lot of people congregating around this bot lane. We're going to have to see if anything actually kicks off as the ultimate will come through. The stun comes down, and there we're going to be dragging in the Kai'Sa. Harry is going to be melted through. One more auto attack will be enough as teleports come in behind. This is a full-blown team fight now, ladies and gentlemen, as Zion will get caught up. Nara ultimate into the wall, but Seraphine's ultimate is so big. Double kill going through as the ultimate from Hachi coming on down. The double cast is huge as Regan is going to be chased away. Not going to be cut down by Wukong, and goes down to the tower, but Poke is shaking, gets the knock up. Not going to be able to supply the kill to Vyusi, but a double kill for Poke is going to feel pretty good. 4 for 1 on the play, and it's all Bulldog.
Yeah, all coming up Bulldog, and honestly, it's just very greedy from MNM. They should at the very least know that they're going to be at a numbers disadvantage, given the fact they don't have mid lane priority. They know Tyrex is still mid, they know Shiklin's missing. And it's just greedy positioning from Harry. He doesn't have the Featherstorm available when that play kicks off. And he's just not respecting the fact that, I mean, Poke had flash, so even if he's standing, you know, slightly further behind, he can still get caught out by that engage. So, honestly, greedy positioning from the MNM Academy AD carry. And at this point, I understand the reason why you would want to go back in. You want to try and make this a trade, but it's already a 4v3. So it's kind of a head scratcher in reality. And I mean, Regan, cool, he gets the kill credit back onto Hachi, but at the end of the day, almost all of the members on that bottom side play for MNM drop. yet, somehow, on the back of the play, they still managed to pick up the dragon, which is kind of strange. I guess it was just the way that the dragon was respawning. Bulldog took resets after that fight. Then they would have probably been second back out onto the map, so that's why you see MNM picking up that dragon. So there is at least that miniature artificial timer on the game, but something we haven't necessarily kept our eyes on is because Tyrex hasn't really been able to move away from the mid lane, he's whacked at this tower quite a bit. So Herald is going to knock this tower down. It's going to be 610 gold into his pocket. And all of a sudden, he's 1,000 gold up. The map is wide open. And with that Infernal map, it's going to mean rotations are going to be all the easier. You can see an engage coming in from the bottom side.
Yeah, looking to get the dive down. Valu's going to be able to dive away, but Regan might not be so lucky on... Poke's not going to be so lucky even on the Relo. He's trying to walk away. Will be caught with the Emperor's Divine and should just be beaten up and taken down. Shut down going over on to Xayah. DBL needs to be a little bit careful as Zion is hanging around. Nars about to go pretty small, but has to use the flash to stun. Will miss, but he can look to dive away. Going very, very low. Dodges the end of the line, but the damage coming through from the collateral damage is too much. So a couple of kills being picked up across the map, one for each team.
Yeah, so DBL almost sort of paying his respects to the weak side, but not quite able to retreat away in time. So he ends up dropping a nice rotation from MNM to at least sort of salvage what was going on the bottom side. But you see, though, still 201, didn't actually die in that play, has that Kraken Slayer in pocket. I imagine Harry must be approaching his Gale Force soon, as Mythics are starting to roll in slowly but surely. See Shiklin actually going for the more damage-orientated build in the Leandries himself, so he is going to be layering out quite a bit of magic as Tyrex 2 has his Leandries. You see the Kraken Slayer actually come out from Harry, so there's no Gale. Oh, never mind, he sold it, so now he has the Gale.
Just playing with you a little bit. Just like, oh, which one will it be? Which Mystic am I going for? It's always very, very problematic with the new Mystic items, or Mythic items, because they all build from very similar paths. So it's kind of, oh, what are these components saying about the build? Well, that they're a marksman in 2021. It's what we're being told by this. But it's very interesting watching this game. Tyrex has been so quiet until that last play. There was one attempt to play in the jungle earlier, but coming up with such a big lead, being able to smash down that tower and open up the map, allowed MNM Academy to move in and will allow them to move into the jungle more and more moving forward. Objective is going to be much easier for them to take, and they've already got two dragons, so this artificial timer could be looking good, but Hachi coming in, and it's not looking good for Harry. He's going to be taken to below half health before the ultimate is even popped. Hachi is now there looking for the damage, but Regan and Kazura have turned up Tyrex there as well, and the monkey will be caught down, is going to go down. Harry will be picking up the kill in revenge for such a rude engage.
Yeah, I mean, Hachi, the rest of your team's on the top side. That's just, it's illegal. That's not good. It's just how it is. Bulldog, they're committing the numbers, you can see. They're committing the numbers. MNM committing the numbers to the bottom side, so he should just not really make this engage happen. Should just reset or just not be there, period. As MNM now have taken the time to try and rotate up to mid.
Nick Lin gonna have to flash away from the Emperor's Fight. Does manage to do so. Zion's trying to get the damage down. Tyrex to be forced away, but Kazera, Regan, and DBL all pretty beefy, looking to move forward. DBL on the side. Not going to be able to find a flank just yet, but is happy to move down and clear up the wave in top side. Second Rift Herald has been started up. This time it's Bulldog on it as Poke looks to try and catch Kazero. Gets the knockup, which is very, very nice. And VUC will dive in the back of it. No more follow-up CC is available with Ragnarok there, but Hachi gets the damage down, and there's the kill. Going over to VUC once again. Now the Rift Herald should be not secured. Rift Herald's going to chill back at its pit. It might have to start that one up once again, which is not the best use for Bulldog, but getting that catch certainly is.
Yeah, as Bulldog, I think they're still going to be able to force the tower down. Maybe not, actually. Tower. Harry doing a good job of just clearing out the wave to add those distances to the tower. But yeah, I'm not sure why Kazura is there. I'm sure Mishka's going to question him on that one. Coach Vimina is all Harry's looking for. Archie here, not quite going to be able to lock him down. But the result still is Bulldog pick up that Herald, so they're going to have that in pocket for this dragon spawning up in 40 seconds. All right, now MNM, they're going to have the positional advantage at this dragon. They should have Bulldog checking into them, which when you've got that Azir, when you've got Desire, you're happy for members to come into you through those chokes. Sundisk even going down to just make sure that they have the wave pushed up even further. The Bulldog, it's gonna definitely be a struggle to make it into this river.
And they need to be contesting this dragon. It's crucial that they don't allow Soul Point to go down, because that will allow MNM to fight themselves further and further into this
Central
game.
flank.
Ooh,
Go
let's see
Hachi.
if Hachi's looking for something on the side. You can see the Cyclone coming through if he does manage to catch onto anyone. Zero, Tyrex, and Regan coming through, but Bulldog are there now as well. Look at the ultimate coming down onto the Olaf. It gets taken very, very low, but we'll be able to get out with the Ragnarok. Regan's going to be melted down as Hachi is rooted in place. The damage on the other side of the map is huge, though, as Tyrex is going to be forced down. DBL is big, but he's not angry enough to keep this fight going for his team. MNM Academy are routed. MNM Academy may well be ace by UC. The Dragon's going to go their way. The Rift Herald joins the map as well, and almost perfect fight there from Bulldog.
Yeah, almost perfect fight. I honestly, MNM just really split up there. I'm not entirely sure how you allow yourselves to actually get taken down in this kind of manner when you've got the front to back that you do. We had the replay on our screens, and it's just, you see the dive come forward onto Hachi. Kazura is not tanky enough, but the Encore, I believe, clips Harry or Tyrex, or just both of them, really. And before Harry even really touches the ground with the Featherstorm, he's already dead. Tyrex gets pretty much one shot as well. Carry's just not protected on the side of MNM. But UC able to dive into the backside of that fight, so it's just very strange from the MNM side. But Bulldog executing fights near perfectly. Honestly, Hachi finally having the impact on this Wukong in some of these team fights.
Definitely.
Looking pretty bad.
It's looking pretty
the
bad
MNM side.
for MNM. For Bulldog, it's looking very, very good. And you said we have to think, why was this Wukong picked up? It was the counter pick into the Gnar. The lane phase was rough, to put it pleasantly, but that last engage, and you called the engage yourself, you said, we're going to get a very nice flank here, and that's exactly what he did. Didn't even need to catch onto all 5 members of MNM, right? The Wukong ult, I believe, hit 2 people
Something like
in that team fight, which
hit like Kazura and another frontline member.
yeah, maybe Regan as well. Like, it's not a, but it was all that was needed for that fight to kick off, and Bulldog on the same page very, very clearly, all coming in at the right time. So you can see the fight was fought on 2 fronts, but everyone was synergizing very, very well. So MNM Academy have a lot of work to do in this game, and Bulldog in such a health position. You can see from the gold on the bottom of your screen now in a lot of key positions. Look at the jungle difference, 2,000 gold almost for the Greys.
Yeah, I mean, Kazura's not really been farming a lot in the last sort of 10-ish minutes, whereas Zion, on his way to every skirmish, has just been taking up jungle camps. So we'll just see this gold lead bloon and bloon. And the issue with Kazura right now is he's really not that tanky. We've seen him get blown up on multiple occasions now. So he's kind of at a point where he might not even really be able to frontline for this MNM side. And DBL's only got a stride breaker. He doesn't really have many resistances in his back pocket either. Felt like Hachi was trying to find a flank. Bulldog kind of posturing for it. That's why I held my breath.
Yeah, I was holding my breath as well, just in case. I was like, is there an engage going through? Is it not? But didn't manage to find it in the end. MNM Academy just kind of on wave clear duty right now. But with all the control that Bulldog have, you can see they're moving around towards this Baron buff. I don't expect them to start it up immediately, but they've got so much control over this area, especially when that Scholar Crab goes down. Shiklin looking for this. And we said that MNM are really, really happy for Bulldog to come at them in chokes with their composition, but with Seraphine, with Rel, with Wukong, it's not a bad place to fight if you're Bulldog either, if you've got the priority in the air.
And not only that, the Infernal map kind of, in a way, can impact that. There's technically less chokes to work with, or, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, there's more chokes, but there's also less chokes at the same time. The map is more open, but there are more areas for you to get pulled out. So, yeah, whilst MNM definitely had a, you know, a pretty strong front-to-back team composition with the Azir, with the Xayah, they've not really been able to have it come to fruition enough. And honestly, it's hard for me to not be an MNM hype man. I'm not gonna pretend that it's not. But I really have to say, you know, the fighting playstyle that MNM have had over the course of the split, it of course has its pros and cons, right? If you do play in what can be a very disrespectful manner, you can end up in games like this, where, you know, you take 2 bad skirmishes and then all of a sudden the game state feels exactly as it is, where you just lose all lane priority, you have to just sit here and catch waves for as long as the other team just sort of lets you catch waves. And then you just have to, you know, flip the next fight and hope that it's in your favor.
The next fight could be around the Dragon in 50 seconds time. MNM Academy didn't have all of the joy on the last attempt at a dragon, did get aced and lose out on the objective, and this time around, crucially, Bulldog are the first to the punch, have all of that vision, have all of that control around the objective, and it might be wise for MNM just to give this one up.
Yeah, I really think it would be. And, you know, even if the gold was even and Bulldog had this kind of map state, I would probably even be considering, if I'm one of the MNM players, just saying, you know what, guys, I think we maybe just give this one. It's maybe not even really worth contesting at the moment, as MNM actually... Oh, no.
Not up the Baron in response, but the Dragon's not on the map yet, and Bulldog have vision of this. So MNM, hearing Jamada's please, will go off it and go towards this pixel brush, looking maybe for a play themselves, but they don't know the ward is there.
They know it's there now.
Okay, so they've cleared it out right now, but Baron will be joining the side of Bulldog for this fight, and the teleport coming up topside means that Hachi will be getting a nice angle on this one, but the engage has already come through. Poke looking to get down as much as possible, but look at the backside. The Ragnarok isn't going to do too much as another one comes through. Hachi's still got the Cyclone available, flashes to make sure he gets onto Harry, and now will chase the cow home. Tyrex goes down on the push, but it just doesn't matter. Another ace coming through from Bulldog. Again, they don't lose a member, and MNM, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's desperation realistically. MNM, they're not going to really be able to find a favorable fight. We're talking about the circumstances of them funneling in, Bulldog funneling into MNM without it being something along the lines of what they just attempted. And realistically, there's just no front line. You can see the damage coming through from Zion, from Vyusi, onto the diving members of MNM is just far too much. You see DBL, once he drops down into Mini, he just melts. And I mean, look at Kazero, he's not a tank. Goddrinker is not healing him up enough. He doesn't have the likes of an Orianna to buff him up. Or any kind of other sort of shielding utility support. So it just means whilst the frontliners of MNM dive forward, the backline is kind of just left exposed. Hachi on the backside finding multiple members, Harry, Tyrex pretty much for free. So that's probably going to be the final nail in the coffin. In all honesty, I don't really expect MNM to come back from this one. We have seen, you know, wilder comebacks, I suppose, but the game state just feels so far gone.
And it's the case of looking at that last fight. You see MNM, teleport is obviously known on the back, and they're like, oh no, there's going to be a Wukong in this fight, T-minus about 8 seconds. They go for the engage, they try and get something 4v5, which is honestly the best they could have hoped for in that situation, and it did absolutely nothing for them. And now on the side, Zion doing so much damage. Harry gonna be going so low as Vyusi and Zion take him out. Actually moving into the fight now. Nice one comes through from Pokers. Everyone is bundling into the base. The double kill comes through from the Graves as they chase the rest of MNM Academy under their bot tower. Poke does need to be careful, isn't the speediest in the retreat, but the mid lane tower will go down. Inhibitor could well be cracked on this push as well, but Zion getting poked down a lot. Tyrex doing a decent amount of damage on this Azir. Will be able to clear the wave, will be able to dissuade the remaining members of Bulldog from going into the base any further. They saved the inhibitor. The tower means that it is bare though, and Bulldog going to feel very confident with this Baron buff, moving to bot side, joining up with Hachi and trying to get more objectives. Yeah,
and again, I mean, it's kind of disrespectful posturing from them. They don't have to be where they are. Bulldog just say, this is our jungle, what are you doing? Get out. They just force MNM back into their base, taking 2 members with them. It's very head-scratchy. Very, very head-scratchy from the MNM side. But Bulldog, honestly, doing what they have to do now, doing what they need to do. I imagine they kind of know at this point that as long as they don't make any monumental mess-ups, that this game is pretty much in the bag for them. Zion, he's fine. He's got poke in the area. And I think, not to write this game off, but I mean, realistically, you know, this is...
It's hard to look past.
It's hard to look past the 12,000 goal. So, you know, I think moving forward now, MNM, what? You've got 4 more games left. I think there's a little bit of soul searching to do, because they are definitely falling out of form a little bit. I think realistically, the main thing is just a little more respect on the opponents, because multiple times where they're just kind of out of sync and in these very, you know, ballsy positions, really. And it's not just a player-specific thing. It has been, you know, up and down the field. It's not just been, you know, one particular player, as Regan almost pull out in his base.
He's the tank.
Yeah, he's the tank.
And where's half his health bar gone? And that did not use any ultimates. That was just chalk and cheese and normal abilities coming through from Bulldog. Whoa. They're going to be trying to get onto this inhibitor again. Hachi's gone into the base. They're looking for Harry. We'll be able to find him with the Cyclone. As Zaya will be able to dash away. The Hachi gets a massive shield. The Vice forced out of the fight. Chicken gets a huge ultimate down, which will catch onto DBL. Will catch onto Azir. Even catches the Olaf for good measure. And goodness me, that is going to be all it takes. Bulldog going to be able to crack down these Nexus towers. Harry and Regan are only going to be able to watch Harry from the Death Realm as he's going to be taken down. Regan goes down for the third ace of the game. Coming down to the Wukong, coming down to Bulldog, and they're going to pick up the win in this first match of the night.
Bulldog, absolutely huge win for them. Is going to move them closer into playoff contentions. I believe now going to be sitting at that 5-5 mark, I want to say. So honestly, huge win. That means they are going to take the head-to-head over MNM too. They are sitting at that 2-0 mark. So if there is a situation where MNM and Bulldog finish tied in the standings, it's just going to be Bulldog favored. They've got that 2-0 head-to-head now. So honestly, huge win for Bulldog. Whilst yes, we've kind of been focusing on the MNM point of view, this is really, really big for Bulldog. It really does put them in realistic standings to have them finish third or fourth come the regular season end. And across the board, honestly, stellar performances. Shiklin was, kind of outpacing Tarex in the early game. We had the likes of Zion, honestly, farming up a mid-game Storm to the point where he was pretty much just kind of 1v5ing some of these fights with Bayusi, who pretty much had a relatively uncontested early game. So Bulldog across the board doing a pretty stellar job. We had Shiklin on the interview last week, said that they were back in form. MNM, I think they have to do a bit of soul searching. They have to try and rekindle some of that, for lack of a better word, flame for some of these fights, because, they are looking a little lost now.
It's not the best time to be an MNM fan, but Bulldog were massively deserving of that win. We're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, we're going to be breaking down the match we just saw as Bulldog pulled off a massive victory over MNM Academy. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the UKLC. I'm still Viper and joined by Jamada, and we just watched something that I don't think either of us were particularly anticipating. Bulldog not just beating M&M Academy, but dismantling them.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing for me as well, just before we jump into an interview, it was in team fights where M&M Academy
M&M normally
most
fight.
out of depth. And that's how they League of Legends for them is just a series of team fights with some other stuff that doesn't really matter. And Bulldog were better in the macro game, were better in the micro game, and in team fights were dominant. Triple ace in the 3 major team fights of the game without losing a member in the first 2. Insane.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, MNM looking really lost and Bulldog just looking much more revitalized, closer to their earlier weeks form that we saw from them. So, major implications for the standings too, because now they're both tied at 5 and 5. That puts them joint third. Of course, the London Resolve game is what we have coming up next. So we'll talk about some of the implications there as well, because honestly, if London go on to lose versus Resolve, which is probably the favored outcome, you're then still talking about a 1-game difference between, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. And then below that, you still have Barrage, you still have Envision, who are also chasing that 3rd, 4th place hope.
It's a fascinating one, but
yeah.
We're going to be leaving talk about the next game to the next game because we've got Pivotless from Bulldog, the manager of Bulldog, joining us. So, Pivotless, massive congratulations on that huge win. You've got to be happy with that one.
I'm honestly overjoyed. It's, I think, coming into last week, of course, Zion had only just joined us, very fresh to the team, and had a little bit more time to gel now, and I think you can really tell. It's our performance has been really crazy today. I'm just proud of the lads, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was such a strong team performance. It wasn't a case of any one player really popping off. You had Shiklin doing exceptionally well. You had, as I said, Zion looking very, very comfortable today, even though you didn't put any priority on the jungle pick that we saw from last week. What's changed from last week? What's happened for Bulldog that's made them gel so much better than we've seen from them previously?
So, to be honest, I think a lot of the time we're a team that performs extremely well in scrims a lot of the time. And the thing that's been weird for us is when we've underperformed for a week in scrims, it's like it properly lights a fire under them. So they tend to go into the games that week. It's like they want to prove that they're better than the performances they showed. And we've had an up and down week in terms of scrims. And I think we came out of yesterday and we had a couple odd games. And we went to the 3rd one. It was like, well, we need to prove like ourselves as players basically, and then we've just carried that momentum forward. We've gotten to try a few different things this week as well. We let Shiklin off his leash. He drafted like an absolute psychopath and it worked out. So yeah, it's
It's good to obviously hear. And I want to say now who you got Envision and then also Enclave. So this weekend you've got teams that are sort of lower towards the on the lower end of the standings, which obviously does put you guys in prime position to kind of even potentially leapfrog over MNM given their current form. Looking at potentially a top 2 finish in regular split, how do you kind of feel from the manager's sort of perspective on your team's sort of now current resurgence and your chances at finishing in that top 2 spot?
So I think going into the split, and of course when we had our first couple games, expectations for us were pretty low.
Yeah.
And it made things really easy for us to play above expectation. Pressure was completely off and we got to start extremely strong. I think we faltered a little bit in the middle just as pressure on us started to mount a little bit more, but we sort of found our groove now. So obviously taking the 2-0 over MNM today and not having to deal with a tiebreak if that were to happen is huge for us, especially for a team that a lot of people pegged as finishing fairly highly. And then going into our next couple of games, Enclave and Envision, we've dropped games against both. We're very happy that they're both sat below us in the standings so we can avoid tiebreaker scenarios if that were to happen. But to be honest, with our performance today, I'm feeling confident. I feel like the team's feeling very confident as well that we should be able to 3-0 this Super Week and hopefully cruise into a top 2, top 3 regular season. I'm excited to see the rest of the games play out because I think we can continue putting in some really strong showings like today.
It's going to be an absolutely fascinating weekend for everyone at Bulldog. And with such a successful first game, you set yourselves up for some very, very exciting games. So massive congratulations again on the win, and we look forward to seeing how your team can do tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
Amazing stuff. And very, very interesting. Always interesting to hear from a manager or a coach, people behind the scenes at organizations on how they think things are going. But of course, the coach, the management can only have so much impact. It's what happens on the Rift that matters at the end of the day. And Jamada, we got your crayons back out. Let's have a look at one of these big plays, one of these big team fights, and where it went so right for Bulldog.
Yeah, so honestly, right here we've got the third dragon spawning up, and at the moment the game state isn't necessarily great for MNM, but it's not entirely doomed just yet. So, talking about the state of League of Legends in general, the third dragon, if the game is pretty close, is normally a relatively good indicator of how the rest of the game is likely to play out. In this case, we can obviously see MNM are about 2,000 gold down. So already in that gold sense, they are trailing, but they've got the 2-dragon advantage, and they have the positional advantage at the moment. And with the composition that they have, it does favor MNM in the sense of Bulldog with their relatively short-range champions kind of have to run into Azir, Xayah, Olaf in that sense, Alistar as well, and it can get kind of difficult. And they, at the moment, only really have this approach, potentially this approach. But on the bottom side, we have Hachi, who's found himself a teleport, and he's got pretty much a free, that's still a circle. He has a free range, a flank, really. Nothing's really stopping him from coming up, so I'll get the clip finally going. And it looks fine for MNM. Harry's walking a little bit too far forward here, up on the top side, but it doesn't really mean a whole bunch. But this is when the fight kind of kicks off. I might have hit a bit too early, but you can see Kazuru's just not tanky. He gets knocked up, he gets all of the abilities kind of layered through him, and he kind of just loses his health bar. On the backside, Regan's basically alone versus the 2 carries of Bulldog, and on the backside, Bulldog were just ravaging through Tyrex and Harry, and DBL was doing his best to keep his carries alive, but it just wasn't enough. And it's just kind of strange to see this kind of fight occur in the way it does, because MNM, the main mistake there was not really defending the chokes properly. They didn't stop Bulldog from entering the river, and because they didn't stop them from entering the river, it kind of allows Bulldog to have a more open fighting field, as opposed to, hey, they have to walk through chokes, which means they have to deal with Azir soldiers, feathers, they have to deal with potentially big, headbutt pulverize combos. They kind of just gave up their positional advantage, even though they were the first ones to the river, and they just get absolutely wiped because of it.
And massive amount of props to Hachi in that fight for finding that flank, finding so much space. And again, the ultimate only landed onto one person, but it was all that it needed. So we're going to leave Bulldog's victory there as we look forward to our second match of the night. We're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, can Resolve bleed? And can London Esports be the one to put the dagger in? Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.